you ready to get your mind blown?
One angry New York City Puerto Rican decided to start a radio show, determined to piss the world off by shoving a mirror in front of society's face. He kicked them in the balls.
What are you? Who are you?
This is the Crotch Shot Radio Show. Crotch Shot Radio Show.
This is not a test. This is a broadcast transmission.
We're going to stay on the air.
And now, Louie B.
Welcome to the Crowd Shot Radio Show, where we kick the issues in the balls. We are on an active war against bullshit. We would do anything and everything to expose bullshit. The ends sometimes justify the memes, so if you're angry and want the truth exposed, then strap him in, prepared to be shocked. This is Smash Mouth Talk. If you can't accept it, then fuck off. I'm your host, Louie B. I takes no bullshit from nobody. I actually expose the bullshit of society and chop it up into easy to digest chunks for you. Today won't be any different. Today, we are, actually, I just wanted to get into some stuff first, but, just wanted to get into some stuff that I wrote down and, get into some of my thoughts before we get to the main topic at hand here. Should have had this ready. Yeah. I mean, now that politicians want to fully ban AR-15s for the children, always for the children. Look, I mean, the only way I'd shoot a kid is if that kid was a zombie trying to break in my house to eat my brains. Then I'm drilling a hole through that undead bastard's head. That's the only way I'll shoot a child. Is it 5 minutes? Yes, it is. Also, since the government has banned vaping, why not ban other things that hipsters like pumpkin spice, Pabst Blue Ribbon, and gender studies classes? Also, yeah, today we got a show planned. We're going to be talking about Antifa's plans. I mean, not Antifa's battle tactics. Some of you probably already heard, saw that video about, the Antifa in Canada harassing and blocking an elderly couple. That's some coward shit. Like, I don't care personally if an elderly person disagrees with me and doesn't like what I have to say or what I believe. It's still going to be yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. Can I be of service to you, sir or ma'am? Can I help you across the street, sir or ma'am? I am not going to be like, you're a fucking piece of shit. You're a Nazi. No, I am not going into an elderly couple's face. It's just fucking disgusting. Hold on. Actually, I have a guest. Let me call my guest and have them come on. Calling them now.
Hello?
Hey, what's up, Gabriel? You're on live.
What's going on?
So basically I just started off the show by talking about, Antifa blocking that elderly couple in,
I'm having a hard time hearing you. I don't know why.
Oh, shit. Okay. How about now?
A little bit better.
A little bit better. How about now?
Yeah, that's much better.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you were just so low, I could barely hear a word.
Oh, okay. All right. How about now?
Yeah, that's definitely good.
Okay. So, let me just, all right. So basically, just started off talking about how the Antifa in Canada were blocking that elderly couple.
Oh, yeah. Because that's what they do.
And, you know,
they target those they view weaker than themselves.
Right.
And when I say that, they don't discriminate in who they target.
No.
You can be a child or an elderly person in a wheelchair, and they will still go after you because they're like robots. They're like drones. You saw in the video how they're just chanting at these people.
Yeah, I mean,
they really believe they're a Nazi scum.
Yeah, well, I mean, because as you know, I'm reading the book, the Antifa handbook.
Yes.
And, I mean, the thing that I've discovered, basically what you've been telling me for years, they believe that they're under attack.
Yes, they have been conditioned to believe that everything that's happening around them is an attack. Mm-hmm. And they argue that words are violence. Mm-hmm. So therefore, they're in a mode of self-defense, which then they can arguably say, well, we're under attack because words are violence to us, so our violence is self-defense.
Right.
So they preemptively have determined that the woman that was crossing the street was probably already violently attacked her. The Antifa people in their minds, so therefore it justified their right to do the same to her.
Like, and I'm sorry, like, if it was the other way around, if, like, let's say there was an elderly couple that disagreed with my political ideology, and I already said this, so let me repeat myself for you, it's going to be yes, sir, no, sir, yes, no, ma'am, I disagree, respectfully, can I please be of service to you, and let me help you across the street? It's not going to be like, oh, you fucking piece of shit.
That's how you would react, and that's how, let's say 99% of the population would also react. But again, you're not dealing with 99% of the population. You're dealing with a segment of the population that has been psychologically conditioned to believe that they literally Nazis are everywhere, and that it's their job to physically attack people in quote-unquote self-defense.
Right.
It's a perversion of definitions, just like what they do with most of their words that they utilize when they label people. They live in an alternative reality than people such as yourself or I do. But yeah, I had called this out many years ago. I mean, if you want to call 6 years ago, many years.
I mean, if I could,
it was a long time ago.
If I could get through, like, I just want to read some excerpts that I gleaned from basically just the introduction, and if you want, we could like discuss this by passage, if you like.
Sure.
Antifa is the first transnational history of post-war anti-fascism in English and the most comprehensive in any language. It argues that militant anti-fascism is a reasonable, historically informed response to the fascist threat that persisted after 1945 that has become especially menacing in recent years.
Yeah, that's one of the passages in the book. You know, it's funny. They're right and they're wrong. Yeah, did Nazi Germany? It was done. It failed.
Yeah,
the war was over for Nazi Germany. Italian fascism died. But I mean, the United States, they went over to Germany. We acquired their scientists and their weapons, and you know, all the people that served the Third Reich that we could acquire under Project Paperclip. Yeah, you know, because that's magically never talked about by these people. Yeah, we recruited them into places like what became the CIA and NASA. You know, some of our military advancement programs. And NASA. That's the only extent that the Third Reich really survived beyond the war in the United States. We contracted them to build our military up.
Which, I mean, honestly, as long as they're not, I mean, okay, this is going to come out wrong, but I'll explain it. It's kind of smart to do that.
Well, we absorbed them because we had a bigger enemy. We had communists to deal with at that point. They were our allies for a period, but obviously certain allies that have conflicting ideologies have a tendency to, have conflicting departures as well. So it makes sense that maybe our intelligence apparatus contracted some of these shady characters that served the previous regime.
Well, also we needed to
people in the Third Reich anyway. They'll join any regime as long as they continue their work.
I mean, but we also needed to upgrade our technology. And if if these people are not using it, we might as well take it and use it for ourselves before our enemies take it. I mean, it's better.
You have to remember too, Louis. The other thing is a lot of these Third Reich. People, they ended up working for the communists too. They worked in East Germany, they worked in the Soviet Union, they pulled up their advancement and their weapons and their technology as well. So the Soviets also contracted and utilized former Nazis for their own interests as well. So communists have a history of doing that as well. It's not just the United States. It happened all across the board. Anywhere they could get work or anyone they could work with, they were willing to do that. They were mercenaries at that point. Mm-hmm. You never hear Antifa talk about any of this history.
No.
They'll scream about how, everybody's a Nazi all day long, but they'll never actually talk about the real deal. Where the Nazis ended up after the war and what they ended up doing. So, yeah, I mean, their movement is right and it's wrong because, they say they're going after Nazis and fascists, but they're not really because they're not going after the Bilderberg group. Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands was a Nazi founded, he's a co-founder of Bilderberg. They're not going after the Round Table group of the Anglo-American establishment who has sponsored totalitarians across the planet. They're not going after the Council on Foreign Relations or the Trilateral Commission, stuff that we've been talking about for a long time. But they'll go after, grandma crossing the street with a walker.
Yeah.
And call her a Nazi. I mean, granted, she's probably old enough to have been around at the time of the Third Reich, but I don't see any evidence that she was a member of it.
Yeah, I mean, basically they're like, from what I read, the justification was that they were going to a conservative talk.
Yeah, which isn't necessarily even. I don't think David Rubin is a conservative. I think he's may slightly lean to the right these days, I think. But I don't think he labeled himself a conservative. I think he was a gay liberal at one point.
I mean, but the funny thing is, a lot of these, like, liberals who are centrist, they're being forced to the right. So, I mean, Antifa is basically helping us out in that regard by getting people who are not, or who are on the fence, or even centrist, and being like, you know what? If I'm going to be called a racist, sexist, and all this, you know what? I'm just going to become a Republican. You're going to make me keep pushing me more and more right.
That is happening. Or unfortunately, the other thing that's happening is some people actually are joining real fascist movements as a result of this. Because they don't see anybody else stopping these Antifa people. Yeah. And they're like, well, the only option I have is a fascist movement or a Nazi movement. And that's not good.
No.
But yes, essentially the reason I bring this up is, I'm sure, you've been following the 9/11 stuff for years.
Yeah.
You've been following what the neoconservatives did in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Preemptive wars, Islamofascism, we don't care who we strike because collateral damage means nothing to us.
If you're not with us, you're with the terrorists.
It's only further encouraged the rise of radical Islam since we've been there. Its numbers have increased drastically. So where people are joining Islamic terrorist groups.
Right.
All because of our war on terror against them. And Antifa has a very similar pathology where they attack their people that they claim are their enemies. And then those people who, whether innocent or actually, the real deal, they're gravitating into the exact direction that Antifa is claiming that they are trying to stop people from gravitating towards. And the reason why Antifa and the neocons have such a similar pathology and the way that they go about doing things is because they're both rooted in Trotskyist ideologies.
Mm-hmm.
If you go back to Leo Strauss and Irving Kristol and, you know, the neocons, they were originally a bunch of communists back in the 60s, and they gravitated towards the Republican Party, and they you know, created neoconservatism. But they are originally communists. They're Trotskyist communists. And if you look at the origins of Antifa, they're also a Trotskyist communist, you know.
Well, they admit that. They admit to that.
They both follow the same pathology, even down to their flaws.
Right. So, in fact, okay, let me read this next excerpt. This is all in the introduction of the book. So, right. I mean, honestly, do not buy this book. I already bought it because I wanted a physical copy to study, but you don't have to. You guys, it's free. You can download the free PDF everywhere. There's an audiobook version on YouTube. So, I mean, if you guys, I do recommend that people go out and read this and study it for yourselves. But, this is on page 13, of the introduction. Historian Robert Paxton defines, fascism as a form of behavior, marked by obsessive preoccupation with community decline, humiliation, or victimhood, and by compensatory cults of unity, energy, and purity, in which a mass-based party of committed nationalist militants working in an uneasy but effective collaboration with redemptive violence and without ethical or legal restraints goals of internal cleansing and external expansion.
That's a really funny quote. Because I could tell you about 90% of that quote.
Yeah.
You could easily just take what Antifa is, does, and is about, and they actually, by their own definition, fall in line with that very, you know, way of doing things. They are operating under their definition of fascism. They're utilizing fascistic tactics and attacking their enemy through violent means. I mean, there's only a few elements to that obviously they don't fall in line with. But I would say about 90% of their own definition regarding
because
they themselves actually are guilty of doing.
Yeah, I mean, because if they weren't like that at all, they would start their own communities. They wouldn't be trying to impose their beliefs on others. They would go. They would go stay in Portland, or they would go occupy a certain state and make it theirs, and, you know, pass all those policies there. And if people agree with them, if it's such a good policies or such a good form of government, they would go move there and go into that community, not trying to change or fight everyone. You're trying to change people's minds via violence and intimidation.
Well, think about this, Louis. There's talk of purity. Antifa's all about ideological purity.
Right.
If you don't follow 100% what they say, you could be on the chopping block tomorrow.
And that's even amongst their own.
We know people they've done this to.
Yeah, and that's even amongst their own. I mean, I've had a guest here. Alyssa Bang. I've had Alyssa Bang on this show, and she was kicked out of Antifa just for saying, "Hey, I don't think these guys are really fascist." That's it. That's it. And that's all it took. And then they doxed her. They attack her, and it's like, and mind you, she is a transgendered woman who they are supposedly rights who they're fighting for.
Well, that's just it. It doesn't matter. That's people don't realize. Your labels don't matter to Antifa if they can't utilize you for a political puritanist purpose. If you're not part of their purity cult, then you will be made an example of in the harshest of ways. And that's precisely what they've tried to do to Alyssa and many others. Yeah. And continue to do to anybody they come across that they can kind of work with, but then can't because they're not pure enough.
Right.
But yes, if you look at what Antifa, I mean, their whole movement is built purely upon violence.
Well, yeah, they call that direct action.
Yeah.
And
they utilize direct action tactics.
Yeah. Basically, here's the definition.
They don't follow the law. They're above the law.
Yeah.
In their own minds, which is funny because their definition of fascism talks about a movement that has no regard for the law. And that's exactly what their actions are built on. Yeah. A movement that goes beyond the law in almost a vigilante kind of fashion.
Yeah, I mean here, direct action occurs when a group takes an action which is intended to reveal an existing problem, highlight an alternative, or demonstrate a possible solution to a social issue. But well, in the book, it goes on to explain certain tactics they use, and they use it to this day. Blocking people going into a talk. They'll fit like during during Trump's inauguration, they were physically blocking people from attending the inauguration.
Yes, that's all part of a effort to disrupt any kind of gathering that they deem fascist. And it's funny, like I said, if you go back to their definitions, I mean, actually, I believe in the book somewhere from what I recall, they even admit that Antifa is an illiberal movement that is free speech.
Yes, in fact,
they don't believe in the principles of free speech, and they are highly critical of liberalism in its classical sense.
Yeah, here it is. This is
individualism and individual liberty.
This is the quote right here. Also, anti-fascism is an illiberal politics of social revolution applied to fighting the far right, not only on literal fascists, as we will see, anti-fascists have accomplished this goal in a wide variety of ways, from saying over fascist speeches to occupying the sites of fascist meetings before they could set up to sowing discord.
Well, there you go.
Discord in their groups. Hold on, not finished. Not finished, Gabe.
Anti-fascist action is not a movement for them.
Yeah.
By any means.
Yeah. In their groups via infiltration to breaking any veil of anonymity to physically disrupting their newspaper sales, demonstrations, and other activities. Militant anti-fascists disagree with the pursuit of state bans against extremist politics because of their revolutionary anti-state politics, and because such bans are more often used against the left than the right.
Well, as you can see, they do not believe in any degree of free speech, no matter what. And a lot of people don't even people we know, they don't quite comprehend that, yeah, you hold an event, they'll try to show up and stop it, and people think, we just have to appease them. Like, if we do what they say, they'll leave us alone. That's not going to happen.
No.
Their goal is to disrupt everything you do. Because everything you do in their eyes is fascism.
Yeah.
Whether it is or isn't.
And here's the thing. There is no forgiveness with them. There is no redemption for them. Like, let's say tomorrow I'm like, okay, I'm not a Trump supporter anymore. I'm sorry for everything I said. It doesn't matter. It will be held against me to the day I die.
Well, you know what they'll do? in some cases, sometimes they'll act like they're going to forgive you.
Yeah.
But there'll always be one article by Antifa that they don't change for you. They might delete or censor a previous post that they made about you if you declare that you don't want to be part of their, part of the fascists anymore, or what they define back. But there's always going to be one article that your name's still going to be attached to that they won't get rid of for whatever reason. So even if you appease them, it doesn't matter because your stuff is going to be shared to a variety of other chapters. And there's no, they act like there's no central leadership that can change any of that. So if that be the case, your name's still going to be out there anyway. So you're not forgiven even if you are. So, yeah, the Antifa is an absolute liberal movement. It even says it in its own words. It does not believe in individual liberty or the very things that our founders espouse, about having freedom under a Bill of Rights. They're absolutely opposed to the Bill of Rights and everything it stands for. And that anybody who's moderately of the left that thinks Antifa is fighting Nazis, even if that were the case, they still don't believe in the principles you do to such a degree that liberals get the bullet too, as they once said in Berkeley. You are going to be the next on the chopping board after you've helped stop the quote-unquote fascists.
Yeah, because you're not going to be anti-capitalist enough. You are never going. You're not going to be too communist enough. And that's the thing. They are so they're elitist, like you said. They're elitist. They're not inclusive in their club. Don't trust.
They act as if they are, but they're really not.
Yeah.
And like I said, people on the right, they're like, oh, we just got to appease them. Like the people we know, they think if they appease them, the Antifa will stop going after them. And, they're afraid of getting doxxed. They're afraid of all these things. No, Antifa will never. They're like the Terminator. They'll just keep coming for you until you're dead. They don't care. That's the way they are. And that's what people got to realize. They can't give in to them. You can't apologize to people. Yeah, there's absolutely no forgiveness. And you can apologize until the cows come home. And they'll seek more from you until you can't give them any more. And then you're done.
Yeah, I'd like to give a shout out to Victoria from hiding in Reno. She's listening on YouTube right now. We're broadcasting live from D-Live, from Facebook, from Twitter. Where we're broadcasting out of. We're periscoping right now. We're YouTube, D-Live, and Facebook. Like to thank everyone that's listening live right now. We have the chat room open. So there we go. This next passage from the book. I mean, look, honestly, this book it's actually helped me connect a lot of dots in my head. It's really.
Did you hear that, Louis?
Yeah,
I am, because I've been telling people for over 6 years that this is, these people are exactly what I described them to be. Like everything you're talking about. I think in conversations over the years, even on some of the broadcasts that you've done with your show, we've talked about these things. Yeah, like literally, like almost word for word what they're actually saying in this book.
Well, that's the thing.
Go back to the Spencer Sunshine, interview. Well, not the interview, but we did a show about Spencer Sunshine, Antifa, like probably 2 years ago, I think it was, or maybe over a year ago. And I actually described some of these things in that discussion that we had. So it's funny that now you have the book and you're actually looking at the stuff that's in the book, and it's saying pretty much everything that you and I were discussing.
Yeah, but the thing is,
it really is clear as day for you that wow.
Because now I'm getting the context. I see the context now. I recognize the context.
Yeah. And
it's also opening up my eyes to other aspects of society where this is going on. It's like, oh, so you mean this is why the media is doing what they're doing, because the media is Antifa as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
like I said, I knew what I was talking about a long time ago, within the last 6 years. You know, it's just that people didn't, you know, a lot of people kind of wrote Antifa off as if they're a bunch of idiot kids who live in their basement or something, when actually there's a huge, like, strategic and tactical network of people and powerful sponsors. It's a lot bigger than people realize, and I guess this book is kind of opening your eyes to just how, you know, how much time they've had to really hone in and develop their tactics and their network. I mean, just that little book you have.
Right.
You're seeing it, and it's pretty clear as day.
Yeah. I mean, here, let me read this, this last thing that I gleaned from the introduction. A range of tendencies exist that broader strategic consensus. However, some Antifa focus on destroying fascist organizing. Others focus on building, promoting their leftist political vision. Many formations fall somewhere emerged in the autonomous anti-fascist movement over whether Antifa was mainly a form of self-defense necessitated by attacks from the far right or a holistic politics often called revolutionary anti-fascism that could form the foundation of the broader revolutionary struggle as a kind of ideology and identity, a tendency or milieu, or an activity of self-defense.
Well, what you just described is exactly what we just said right before you described it.
Yeah.
You read that, and it's pretty much what I just told you. Antifa is a giant network of organized groups of people. And that passage you just read is exactly confirms what I just said before you read it. Yeah. That's exactly what they are. They have a network of different people who play different roles. And what they do is they work as an intelligence apparatus. You have an intelligentsia. They have powerful sponsors. They have their street thugs that go around and act like the Foot Clan from Ninja Turtles. And yeah, that's exactly what you got going on here.
Yeah. So, I mean, basically, you know, we shouldn't be paying attention to the street thugs. We should be trying to find who gives them their marching orders.
Yeah, you need to find out who their intelligentsia is. It's good to know who the street thugs are, especially if they show up to rallies on a frequent basis. Just because that will be a sign that Antifa is around the corner for sure. You'll be able to identify them. But they're generally useful idiots that are themselves ignorant of the larger scale of what Antifa is involved with. Many of them don't know who their sponsors are. Many of them have not thought through to ask questions. Who paid for these boards? Who sponsored my bus ride? Who bailed me out of jail? They don't think about stuff like that because they're just trying to bash the fash all day long. But the reality is, there is a network doing those things. There is a network sponsoring them. And what people need to start learning is who the names of these more, I wouldn't say well-known people, but certainly prominent people within their circles. And they need to figure out that these individuals write books, they write articles on a scale of almost being like the level of the Southern Poverty Law Center quality stuff, and that they're in constant communication with each other on a regular basis. And you learn that when you dig around a little bit. And you learn that when you start reading the books that they write and the people that they're connected with, the outlets that they have been given a voice at.
Yeah, I mean, this guy.
Give you a list of some of those.
Yeah, this guy, Mark Bray is an idiot. I mean, he like, honestly, like, thank you. I mean, thank you for making it easy for me to research you. Somebody, who the fuck is calling me now? Okay, hold on. Alright, okay, hey sis, I'm in the middle of my podcast.
Okay, this is Abu.
Alright, alright. So, oh goodness, I would love to get her on to talk about what the fuck is going on over there in Cali. Oh my god.
Who is that?
My god sister.
Oh. Yeah, that's an interesting discussion.
Oh God,
what's happening out there?
Oh my God, what she told me, what's going on amongst the Democrats? I'm like, Like, really, they cut their own nose to spite their face.
Well, yeah, I guess we could say that the Democrats and Antifa have kind of an interesting alliance these days.
I mean,
in a weird way. Cortez.
Oh, Cortex.
Yeah, Cortex. Well, as you know, she sponsored a message to encourage people to donate bail money to Antifa up in Boston, who got themselves arrested at the Straight Pride rally for assaulting cops. And this isn't some like website person. This is a member of the Democratic Party, a congressional woman who is encouraging people to donate to Antifa, militants. What does that say? I mean, I know that we used to joke. I don't know if it was a joke. We certainly, many of us hyperbolically kind of said the Democratic Party, Antifa is the militant wing of the Democratic Party. Mm-hmm. Well, after that, she kind of made that meme a reality. Here, they sponsor their bail. We're the Democratic Party. Your bail was sponsored by the DNC and its followers. So, yeah, I mean, that's how crazy this is. Yeah. And I'll tell you, Mark, putting out that book, you know what it is? They probably assume that, I'm convinced that these people believe that we don't read books and we're really stupid.
I mean, the thing that
they must think that.
I mean, the thing that kills me is that they will use the fear mongering of anti-Semitism, that people are anti-Semitic, but they hate Israel.
Well, there's an interesting, I hate to jump on the the anti-Semitic bandwagon of discussion. But no, there is some truth that there is some left-wing elements that are highly anti-Semitic and just anti-Jewish in general. And, that is a real thing.
I mean, remember,
it's not just something that plagues the right as they like to, portray themselves.
No, but remember 2 years ago at May Day, they were chanting Israel go to hell.
Well, they would. I mean, there's a lot of leftists that are not in favor of Israel. I mean, I'm no stranger to that myself. I have a lot of criticism for Israel as well. Mm-hmm. But I don't have any particular issue with Jews. But yes, there are some people on the left who take it to a whole other level. And yeah, they're definitely, and actually that's a conflicting issue that even exists within Antifa. Yeah. Because you have Jewish supremacists like Spencer Sunshine, who is of a Jewish background according to his own admitted statements. Mm-hmm. And he's obsessed with his Jewish identitarianism. And what he will do is he will accuse anybody who's critical of his influence or just critical of Jewish influence and just accuse them of being anti-Semites. He's even gone after Jill Stein of the Green Party and called her a fascist and anti-Semite. Mm. And he's gone after Cynthia McKinney and called her an anti-Semite, as well as many other things. A former Democratic congresswoman. So you do have this interesting, weird, divide among certain Antifa on that issue. They may all be critical of Israel, but it then turns into a fishing contest of who can either be more anti-Semitic or who can be more anti-Semitic. And they start attacking each other. Yeah, it is pretty wild. But like I was saying earlier, as far as the book, they assume we probably don't know how to read or something, so they just assume we don't read their books, that we're just a bunch of idiots. When, as a matter of fact, I actually like to read my enemies' books all the time. Yeah. So I better understand them. And Somewhere Group did the same thing, as you remember. The people on the New World Order. I mean, Carol Quigley, I believe is his name. He wrote Tragedy and Hope. Yeah. He was a mentor to Bill Clinton. And that book has it written based on the historical archives of the Council on Foreign Relations. So it's like a history book of theirs, pretty much laying out what their end goals were, from what I understand, just from the few passages I have read. They talk about how banks are going to take over the world and they're going to reward these politicians in the business world if they do what they're told. I mean, nobody in a million years would imagine that a group of people would put out a book that admits all these details. But yes, just like the CFR did that, with the historian. So is Antifa. Because they all assume we're not reading their books. Those books are meant for more of their intelligentsia people, I assume. And, people higher up. I guarantee, or I'm fairly positive most of their Antifa members have probably never read the Antifa handbook themselves. They've mostly gotten the information word of mouth through verbal, oral, education.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is the funny thing, though, because after reading this book, certain debates that I've had with leftists, it's convinced me that is true, that they have not read anything. Everything is given to them like word of mouth, and they just, oh yeah, I believe that. Like, it's hilarious.
You're right about this, and this is why Antifa, in many ways, is a cancer, a plague amongst people. A lot of their people on the ground level, the Foot Clan, Foot types, books, they're not the information, they're not really advancing kind of intellectual, comprehension of things by joining Antifa. A lot of them are young kids, questionable, who've been encouraged to engage in violent acts and crafts. And really, a lot of them are just there to break shit. They're there to hurt people. Because they're not there for, learning. They're there to engage in criminal activity. Because as a...
You're cutting in and out really bad, dude. You're cutting in and out. You're cutting in and out really bad.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, what I'm saying is they're using anti-fascism as a shield so that they can commit criminal activities and get away with it. That's why they hide their face. They're not afraid of getting doxxed. They are, but they're not. They're more afraid of getting caught doing criminal activities. And a lot of these kids, that's all it's about for them. They're not there for any political purpose other than to engage in criminal violence. That's what it is at the end of the day.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, it's, they dress up like ninjas, but they fight like,
Well, I mean, just look at the Ninja Turtle movie. Remember the Foot Clan? Some of those kids were just playing arcade games and just, doing drugs and whatever. And then you had another group that was training and had a fight. Mm-hmm. There's two types of Antifa. You have the kids that are just there for stupidity reasons.
Yeah.
And then you have other people who want to work their way up the chain of command. And basically that's what it is for them.
Mm-hmm.
And, it depends on the reason. Some of them just do it to go along with the crowd. They're not even really thinking about what it is they're involved with.
Yeah, no, because, I mean,
a lot of these movements.
Like, that's the thing. I mean, we were talking earlier today. I actually did an open mic.
Yes.
And I decided, all I did was walk in with a MAGA hat on.
Yeah, that's right.
And everyone just decided, fuck their material and focus on me wearing the hat. And they all chose to have their cute little, their little moment making, the same tired arguments. There's one gay guy, I forgot his name, Mateo something or other. He's like, fuck your hat and fuck your team. And I'm like, dude, we got gay guys on our team. What are you talking about?
I'm sure they have more fun on our side than they do on theirs.
I bet. And I bet they get laid more. I bet they get laid more.
Fun time, a positive time. Meanwhile, on their side, they're all victims and crying and just being miserable. It's like, what kind of life is that?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like a show that I did last week, you are not victims. No, and I said it on stage. In fact, hold on, let me play my set. It was like really, hopefully you could hear it, but, yeah.
I mean, if you can't hear it, just do a separate video and you just upload all the audio to it.
Yeah.
That way people can see it. Hopefully it plays on your show.
Yeah. Where the hell is it? Recent. Oh, here it is.
worst times.
All right. All right. So, you know how many of your people are on my team, though? We got Milo. So, he's gay. Milo's in Annapolis. Yes. Yeah, we got Milo. We got a whole bunch of gay dudes on our squad. We also got them. Alright, so anyways. What the fuck up? Alright, I just love how people feel like, oh, fuck it, like, oh, it's free to hate him. Anyways, ever since I honestly, you know, I was on Jim's podcast a couple months ago, and you know, and the only time I've ever experienced racism was from people from the left, like especially in the comedy community. What the fuck? As soon as they found out I'm a Trump supporter, you know how many times I've been called an N-word by... Oh, you support Trump? Nick! I'm like, damn. And then they block me real quick so that way I don't respond. Fucking pussies. You know, like, nah, I mean, and everyone's like, oh, you're brave wearing that hat. Like, the most I ever had is someone screams at me from across the street while walking away. Like, it's like, okay. Like, and it's kind of, I think it's, I wear this hat mostly because it's funny how the looks I get. Because they look at my hat pissed off, and then they look at my face confused. Like, oh shit, I'm like that. You're the racist. Yeah, it's confusing. Yeah, you know. Anyways, the government is banning the vaping now. Like, why don't they ban things that are that other hipsters like pumpkin spice, Pat Blue Ribbon, and gender studies? Alright. See you later. Alright, that was the first workout. I don't know if you heard that. That was the first person workout.
It was hard for me to hear.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll hear it in much higher quality at some other point in time.
Yeah.
But from what you told me, it's funny how people were just like, I'm so upset over you wearing a hat.
Yeah.
A red hat with white words on it.
Yeah. I mean,
letters.
I mean, it was kind of funny also because on my way to the venue, you know, this black lady's like, I'm going to take that hat off your head. I'm like, no, you're not. She's like, oh, we listen to your president talk about your people. I'm like, who are my people? He's talking about your people. Who are my people?
Well, pretty sure the American people are your people.
Yeah. I'm like, who's she assuming that I am? And then she's like, she couldn't answer. And I'm like, well, you're fucking racist. I called her out. I was like, you're a racist. You're assuming my race. And she's like, black people can't be racist. Yes, you can.
Isn't that funny that she's been conditioned to believe that
yeah,
racism is like something that only one group of people can be, but nobody else can be that, while exerting racist positions?
No, and also trying to use her ethnicity to impose an ideal upon me, like I should fall in line because she says so.
Which I think is a pretty racist concept.
Yeah, it is.
Me.
It really is.
Why is somebody like you comes maybe from a certain nationality background? Why should you be beholden to acting in a specific manner that the establishment tells you that you must act like? Why can't you be an individual of that background, which is true diversity? Why aren't you allowed to do that? I don't understand that. I'm having trouble comprehending.
Your president is talking about your people. I'm like, what? Who do you assume my people are? And like, she's not answering the question. I'm like, well, then you're a fucking racist. And don't say, oh, I'm gonna take that hat off yet, bitch. Like, don't. Like, thing is,
nothing's stopping her from making that action reality. Is it?
Well,
Was anything actually stopping her from making that, statement into a real situation? No. She didn't make it reality, so therefore, what value is her word that she's going to take your hat off?
Well, the thing is, I would have stopped her because no, you're not going to, like, I don't care if you're a woman, you're not going to impose your ideals upon me.
Just press charges against her for stealing.
Yeah.
Remember that college student that took that hat?
Yeah.
Well, what happened to her? She got charged with stealing. I mean, I think she ended up I don't know what ended up in the court with that whole situation, but I think she was charged with like a misdemeanor or a felony for what she did, which sounds a little excessive, but you know what? These people want to snatch a hat, and they can snatch your charge too while they're at it.
Well, I mean, that's real violence. Now, that's violence.
That's physical action. There's a difference here.
Yeah.
They talk about, like I said, the Antifa people talk about how they're engaged in self-defense, so that gives them a right to be physically violent. Well, we're not manifesting our words into physical action, but they certainly are. When we're not even, and really, what do you or I even talk about that could even constitute as, like, violence? Mm-hmm. We're always talking about self-defense. We're not talking about going out hunting people down for literally no reason other than just to hunt them down. Antifa, on the other hand, acts like they want to hunt people down and target them. Literally, they don't even know if they've actually committed a crime, even though they're not the police to even determine what crime is, and what kind of actions are necessary. But yeah, that just goes to show you. I mean, so you go to the comedy club, everyone's shrieking at you, right?
Yeah.
They act like they met a terrorist because you're wearing a hat.
Yeah.
I mean, they're actually making your point. Exactly what is wrong with comedy right now. They're not comedians. They're
really not.
At a group therapy session.
No, because basically all is a intellectual masturbation session where you have people who have like-minded political beliefs. And then I was talking to the host and he's like, cause I just joking, was there a group therapy session at the end after I left? And they're like, no one cared. I'm like, it didn't seem like no one cared, because it seemed like everyone dropped their prepared fucking material to talk about my hat. It's just, and people, and I walked 3 people out. They left during my set.
Well, here's my question.
Yeah.
Did they pay to get in?
Well, that's the thing. These were other comedians. This was an open mic.
Oh, so these were other comedians who left that didn't get to perform.
No, they did perform. They performed before me.
Oh, I see. They performed, but they left before they could listen to anyone else.
No. They left during. They left because of the things I said.
Oh, I understand.
They were triggered. They were triggered by
comedians.
Yeah.
And did they have an opportunity to perform their set?
Yes, they did.
Okay, so they performed their set, but they left while you were performing yours.
Yes.
Now, were you the last set, or were there other sets?
I was the second. I was the second to last.
All right, so you had another set. They didn't even stay to listen to. I don't know. It seems kind of rude to me, but what do I know?
Well, yeah, no, because that's the thing. They're justified in being rude.
They're so self-absorbed that they're so rude they wouldn't even listen to another set that didn't even come off as anything that the way that you presented yourself. I'm sure you're probably the only one there who had what you had. I assume. I could be wrong, but that's what I mean. They're not comedians.
They can't handle other ideas.
Handle this.
They can't handle other ideas. Like, I think it's hilarious that I offend other comics. Do you understand?
Comedy is about being offensive. At least, look at George Carlin. He's one of the greats. The man is highly controversial and offensive on so many levels. The 7 words you can't say, the things that he did. I mean, come on. They can't handle
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Pete, like the thing that got
to make in show business.
Yeah, like the one gay dude, the gay Hispanic cat, he was like, "Fuck your hat and fuck your team." That got a standing ovation, like he was a hero. Like, motherfucker, I'm still wearing my hat. You don't have honestly, you don't have the balls to come over here and try to take it off my head.
What team is he talking about? I mean, that doesn't sound like he was very, very clear about the team he's talking about here. He's talking about straight people?
I guess the Trump team.
Is he talking about, well, yeah, I mean, is he talking about Trump? Is he talking about straight people? He should be more specific.
Yeah.
Even in his own comedy, you gotta be specific. I mean, George Carlin, one of the great things about him is the man had such a vocabulary on being specific about what he was talking about. It's incredible that he has brain power and he could really, do that. That's like some sophisticated way of, doing jokes. I mean, listen to that man say things. It's incredible.
Well, yeah, I mean, everyone, and here's the funny thing. These are the same people that worship Dave Chappelle.
Literally would offend the hell out of him.
But if Dave Chappelle wasn't as famous and successful as he is now, if he was an open micer like me, he and I would be in the same boat.
I think there's a lot of legitimacy to what you're saying.
They wouldn't care how funny he is. They would not care how funny he is. They would only see, oh my God, he's talking about trans people. He hasn't earned that right to be that offensive yet.
As if that's a right to be earned.
I mean, that's the thing. This is the dark secret of stand-up comedy in New York, in the open mic circuit. You can't, if you have, I mean, honestly, this is why I'm possibly, no matter how hard I work, I'm still going to be a fucking pariah because I lean towards the right. And the funny thing is, a lot of old school comics lean to the right too.
Well, if anything, even if they don't, they certainly don't lead to their, far left.
No.
And these people have no humor. There's nothing humorous about them. They're stiff. There's nothing funny about these people. I mean, they're literally, it's almost like they're putting a stranglehold on comedy and preventing it from evolving and growing into, actually something organic.
No, because that's the thing. It has to be
tangible to the contemporary world they live in.
The thing is, they're not going to stop its evolution. If anything, they're going to cause it to evolve faster because people like me are going to double down and continue. And honestly, I know who my audience is already. My audience is not in New York City. It's not in New York City.
Not. You know what? New York City's, let's face it, New York State's dead.
Yeah.
Financially. These type of people would bankrupt their entire state.
New York City, when it comes to comedy in New York City, yes, it is a comedy mecca. It's still a comedy mecca. If you prove yourself, and you prove yourself funny and entertaining, cause honestly, I'm not funny among other comics, but I'm hilarious.
Themselves aren't funny.
Because most comics don't like me here. They don't like me. They don't work with me. They don't want to work with me. Fine. But the funny shit is regular people that speak to me, knowing my politics fully, find me hilarious.
Well, because they're not pretentious. These comics sound like they're just pretentious people. They're not funny. And you know what? Maybe they fear you. Maybe they fear that you might be funnier than them, or you might have a kind of sense of humor that speaks to a larger volume of demographics that they themselves can't even, transcribe to.
Well, that's the thing. It's not that I'm funnier, because I'm not going to be pretentious and be like, oh, I'm the funniest person on the planet.
Well, I mean that in the sense that you're funny to regular people who live regular lives and aren't these elitists who literally just go around and they try to appease each other. It's not funny.
Yeah. I mean, there's certain things that piss me off about society, about the inconsistencies. Like, I mean, I was talking about this new pop star, this female rapper named Lizzo, who basically she's an obese woman. But the thing is, she's like, it's all about that whole body positivity bullshit movement that only really is for women. Women, like, I've done shows. The body positivity movement is only for women and gay guys.
It's a women's only movement, pretty much, or if you're homosexual, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much, because, like, let's say I was trying to, like, if I freaking start posing with my shirt off, real men have curves, or if I'm like, if you don't like guys with dad bods or bellies, you're some type of a bigot. And if I'm serious and it's not a joke, that, you know, they would smack me down. I mean, okay, fine. If it's fine. If it's not okay for me to impose my fatness and try to get with a woman who's like a supermodel, why the fuck are you trying to shame men into dating these fucking land whales?
Actually, would male feminists, would they be okay to do it?
I don't know. I think they, like, that's the thing when it comes to male feminists.
You just don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, because when it comes to male feminists, they're really disingenuous. They're just...
I know, that's my point. That's my point. Would they, like, be able to get away with it? Because, you know, you don't really know where their intentions really stand.
No.
You get what I'm saying?
I mean, most male feminists I know are fucking rapists.
They certainly come off that way if they're not actually doing it.
Yeah.
They certainly have a creepy vibe about them. I don't know. It's pretty much.
Like, I'm sorry. I'm not anti-woman in the least. I'm an egalitarian. I'm egalitarian. And if something is not equal and you're expecting more rights than you're willing to give other people, then fuck you and fuck your mother. I'm going to fucking ridicule you. And that's that. That was the point I was trying to make about Lizzo. It's like, first of all, this bitch is like shaking her ass, like, oh, look at me, I got a fat ass. Yeah, because you eat too much, not because God gave it to you. It's not like,
realize that, you know, people, like, look, she wants body positivity. She should be working to, you know, be an example to people and be like, oh, yes, I got myself healthy. I'm to help people get healthy.
Well, no, it's not just that. It's not just that. It's the whole attitude that she feels like because it's like, oh, I'm a goddess, I'm a bad bitch, and like, okay, you're not dating a fat guy. You're not trying to date the fat guy. You're trying to date a dude that's a rich guy. Like, she's like, oh, I'm dating a football player, huh?
If she wants to do that, that's fine. She wants to, you know.
So no, don't try to push this upper echelon, because you're not trying to shame a guy like me into dating you, because you don't want a guy like me. You want a guy that's in the top 10% of men that are high earners. And what are you providing except a bad attitude? Like, it's one thing that if you have a good attitude, you're a good woman, and you just happen to be overweight. Like, okay, you know, I'm not saying you don't deserve love, but a lot of times these women nowadays, they are fat loads with shitty attitudes.
Well, that's just what I was going to say, actually. Mm-hmm. There are guys who will date heavy-set women.
Yeah.
I know plenty of guys like it.
I have.
However, if you have a very horrible attitude and you're just a scummy person, and, you know, you're just a horrible person in general, they're not going to want anything to do with you. They're going to run for the hills.
Yeah, I mean...
It's nothing to do with your physical appearance.
Yeah,
you
and
don't want to be around a really terrible person.
Yeah, and this rapper, Lizzo, she comes off like she has a shitty ghetto attitude, and it's like, first of all, who the fuck are you trying to fool? You're walking around with in lingerie, and it's just ew. It's like ew, and it's like, oh, I'm a bad bitch. Like, I don't, I like, this is a joke that I say. I would never call women bitches. A woman can never be.
Thing too. I mean,
like,
there's a difference between having confidence in yourself and just being a horrible person.
Yeah, I mean, like, a woman cannot be a bitch to me because female dogs are loyal.
I guess you got a good point there.
Yeah.
So I guess they want to be a dog.
Yeah, they want to be a dog. But they can't. You can't be a bitch, ladies. You stop calling yourself bitches. You will never be a bitch because female dogs are
man's best friend.
Yeah,
they're certainly not acting like
no. They don't. They don't because it's not.
They're gonna do all that to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. It's more of. It's more like, I'm just bothered by the whole entitlement. Like, look, okay. If you're with someone and it's a committed relationship, yes, you have to provide for your wife or, your long-term girlfriend,
Obviously a mutual thing there that's going on between two people for that person to be with somebody, unless it just gets to the point where it's, like, not redeemable with that. But, yeah, exactly. Yeah, this, like I said, body positivity movement, it seems to be a one-way streak, where only one group of people or two groups of people get to utilize that.
Like I said, I mean, I could have the best attitude, the best personality in the world. The moment I try to approach a woman who is the upper echelon of women, the accountability of men is higher, and you will get smacked down so hard and accused of being a creep, a stalker, or a rapist.
And that has a lot to do with the Me Too movement and just this whole paranoia of not being able to trust the opposite sex due to these scenarios that have been ingrained in the minds of these, Marxist-induced radical feminists.
Yeah, exactly. And know what?
That's a sad thing.
And honestly, in the book, it does explain a feminist Antifa, or femtifa, if you will. And they talk about how...
How did you learn about that?
Well, it's in the book. I forgot what chapter, femtifa, and they did that because they were tired of having to deal with the male leadership of Antifa because they felt Antifa was really misogynistic.
It was becoming too patriarchy.
Yeah.
Based.
Patriarchal.
Antifa, it's apparently a movement of the patriarch.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. They, going back to the original topic, the fact that they use women in the front lines of these...
I'm going to tell you straight up, Louie, that's exactly what they do. I read an article years ago. It actually, it was an article from It's Going Down, I believe, the website, the infamous one.
Yeah.
The article is basically about the whole Boston Free Speech rally that took place in, 2017. I think it was, May. I could send you the link to it. But the thing is, they mentioned specifics in that article. They said that strategically, from what I gathered, that Antifa purposely goes out to recruit angry, militant, women out of leftist circles. And what they did strategically in the Boston situation, there were a bunch of different leftist groups that were protesting the free speech rally. Antifa would kind of mix itself in the middle so it could make the, appearance that they were more Antifa than there actually were. But while they were there, they would specifically seek out militant feminist type women for recruitment purposes so they can basically post them up at the front line to act almost like in a shield-like fashion to, attack people and, act as a defense shield for the rest of the Antifa people. It's basically what I gathered out of the article I read years ago. And yeah, exactly. They seek out women specifically that they think they're going to be, physically violent because they know that emotionally it's easier for them to get riled up to act upon, for physical violent purposes. than I guess their male counterparts.
Well, that's the thing. I mean,
frankly, aren't equipped to do that.
Well, that's the thing. This is what they do, though. They have the women in the front line throwing punches, throwing Molotov cocktails, throwing shit and trying to, because that way they could say if they're hit back by anyone defending themselves, oh, you hit a woman, you hit a woman.
Domestic violence.
Yeah. I mean, and honestly, that's starting not to work, because if you remember one of the battles of Berkeley, Modilocks got her fucking wig pushed back.
Yeah, she did.
She got punched in the face.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, you're an enemy combatant in a war. You've declared yourself as such. And you know what's going to happen? You're going to get hurt. So you want to play war games and expect to get war results if you're a casualty. Yeah. And I don't want to see people get hurt, but you wanted a war. You better be prepared to deal with the consequences.
Well, yeah, no, I'm sorry. If you're gonna be throwing punches, if you're gonna be throwing bombs at people, if you're going to be doing shit that is going to cause the harm of people because you don't like what you perceive that their ideas are, not because here's the thing. This is what I come across. People assume what my beliefs are without actually asking me what my beliefs are.
Of course.
So they're like, oh, so you believe this? You believe this? I'm like, no, this is what I believe. And they have the nerve to fucking disagree with what I told them what I believe. I'm like, how can you?
I mean, as you know, Louis, the book you're reading.
Yeah. Just
from the beginning of the passages in that book, the book is geared towards the idea that you're in a all fronts war. Mm-hmm. We're already at war. We're under attack. These people's mindset has been placed in a position of militant violence.
Right.
And because of that, they believe they're at war with the American people. And they're acting as if they're in a war with the American people when most of the people in America are not at war with them, or even know that a war has been declared against them. But I'm going to tell you, these people, they want to preemptively have a war with the American people, the sleeping giant. They better pray that the American people don't decide to become aware of that war, and certainly don't decide to enact a means to fight back. Because these people are not prepared or even built to handle a battle between patriotic Americans who have been trained on how to utilize weapons as well as hand-to-hand combat due to being veterans in a variety of different branches of the military, police, or any other agency for that matter. They do not want to have a war with those people, even though they think they want to at this point. Because if they do, they're in for a world of hurts. And this is why it's so important that we really break down what Antifa is, basically how they've been conditioned, the things that they motivate their violence, so that we might be able to reach out to these people who are ignorant of the truth, and we can save them from basically getting themselves killed for a phony cause. And at the end of the day, this Antifa cause is a phony cause. It's been propped up by actual collaborators of real Nazis.
Exactly.
Soros and others who, and the actual ruling class these people think they're fighting against. The Ford Foundation, the Southern Poverty Law Center for the FBI. Antifa, these kids don't know. Because they're ignorant, they might be people you can reach. But we have to figure out how to speak to them. We have to understand what motivates them and what makes them tick so we can speak to their language and figure out how to actually reach them. We got to understand what their definitions are. This book is going to help us with that, as well as the research that we continue to do. We need more people to do this research. We need anybody who wants to really take the time. I understand that there are people out there who are afraid to go to rallies because they don't want to get doxxed. Well, that's fine. You don't go to the rally. Go learn about what's going on. Dig up information. Let's figure out who the apparatus leadership is, so that we can learn more of their writings, so we can read their writings. And
in fact, let me put this out there. If anyone that's listening now or listening on the podcast, if you have any writings from Antifa, from BAM, or by any means necessary, or It's Going Down, any of those types of leftist organizations that you have that are that you find interesting, that especially discuss what their ideology is or what their tactics are, feel free and email it to me at crotchshotsradio@yahoo.com. That's crotchshotradio@yahoo.com. And because I would love to see it and read it and incorporate it into this book that I'm writing. Because in fact, let's run down their tactics again. They believe, first of all, they believe that they're under attack, that they've been under attack since 1945. They think any ideology that is not, compatible with theirs is fascism. They'll even believe that anybody that's even religious and apolitical are fascists. They are very self-serving. In the book, they talk about how Antifa, is not really a collectivist movement. They hate the family. They hate tradition. They don't believe in having children. They don't believe in having a family. They think that's evil. That's fascist. They are all for themselves. They're all for living for themselves. It's not so much, oh, well, we should be fascist. We should be, socialist or communist so that way we could, help each other out. It's more like, oh, so I don't have to fucking work. I don't have to worry about food. I don't have to go to get a job so I could buy my own food, healthcare and whatnot. So that way I could play all day and call it art.
Louis, think about how contradictory that whole thought process is. They are anti-individualistic while espousing individualistic in the most negative and selfish of ways at the same time.
Exactly.
They're anti-individualism, but yet they're, talking about how they're going to be individualistic, but not to better themselves. It's rather to destroy themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like how diversity has two meanings. The true diversity in the positive sense is a diversity of cultures and individualism and different groups of people that exist, whereas their form of diversity is only people who do what they say.
Like in the Proud Boys.
Like races and all these people like being their pawns. And destroying any kind of like separatism that is positive. So, yeah. I mean, yeah, they're it's funny. It's almost like it's cognitive dissonance where they're anti-individualism while preaching individualism. In the way it doesn't help you.
Autonomous. They talk about autonomous movement, autonomous anti-fascist. But it's like, okay, you basically you want the state to take care of you. So, just so you could do your own thing. And,
at the end of the day, it's really funny because Antifa, they've been trying to sell themselves off more recently as if they're an anarchist movement. But they were founded as a state communist Marxist movement, and they've kind of always been that way. Mm-hmm. But they've allowed anarchists to kind of, be part of their coalition. But the thing is, I think that the reason they've done this is because they like the anarchist aesthetics and tactics that they could utilize because it shields the fact that it's a Marxist movement. So when the violence is happening, they just call themselves anarchists instead of Marxists, because then you can make the argument, well, we're not those crazy anarchists, we're communists, we're for the state.
Yeah,
they also say they want to create a stateless society by centralizing the state in a highly concentrated fashion. So yeah, they're using anarchist tactics to advance a communist agenda. And at the same time, this discredits anarchists who actually have valid, legitimate ideas. And this is exactly what the Marxists do. This is why they've infiltrated the libertarian movement, and they're trying to destroy that. They're trying to destroy the Libertarian Party with the most outrageous things you could possibly think of. They're trying, they do this to every movement they come into.
Yeah. Victoria Javierino, she says, Lou, mention Satanism and Wicca. That's their reasons.
Well, there is I did see something, I don't know if it's true, where I think it was in Portland, or it was definitely out west, where they did have a satanic Antifa chapter. From what I saw.
I mean, it's like, I'm sorry, like, I mean, it's like, when I see stuff like that, that's the type of thing that's going to push me into becoming more Christian. That is the thing that's going to...
They want you to do that. And I'll tell you why, because they need an enemy to fight.
Well, good. I mean, because honestly,
I'm into the direction that they can declare you the enemy.
Well, no, you know what? Then fine, because I'm not gonna, because I would rather run towards God.
I understand that.
I would rather run towards God and him have my back than me thinking I could do this on my own. Because if they're going for their higher power, I will, I will even take it to the point where maybe I'll stop being political and become just jump head first into being a Christian, so that way I could, possibly ask.
This is exactly what their tactic is. They need people to be pushed and gravitated into certain directions, so that then, therefore, they can be like, oh, these people are on the rise. That's what they're doing with the Nazis.
Well, then what's wrong with a rise of Christians? What is wrong with a rise of Christians? What is wrong with a rise of people that are growing?
I don't think there's anything wrong.
Like, honestly,
for some reason, they think that they can use it as a movement.
Yeah, I mean, then fine.
By attacking people, because they could say, "Oh, these racist Christians, they're all Bible thumping." They're gonna bring back.
And I'm sorry, the Bible is not. I do believe the Bible is the Word of God. It is the instruction manual to us. It is our
basic instructions before leaving Earth.
Okay, yeah. I mean, but
I think the Wu-Tang Clan wants it.
Yeah. I mean, it is a basic instructions. Like, you read it, and honestly, look, I'm not gonna lie, I am taking Bible studies right now. I am running towards God right now.
Nothing wrong with getting involved with spirituality.
I'm experimenting with my I'm experimenting with my spirituality while a lot of these fucking degenerates experiment with their sexuality and messing with kids and doing whatever dirty crap that's pretty much unnatural. I mean, I'm sorry, messing with blood I find myself disgusted by the whole swinger type concept or the open relationship type thing. That really does not seem natural to me. I mean, if you want to practice that, I mean, fine, that's your decision.
The libertarian side of you obviously not be attacking people for it, but that's not your cup of tea.
No, it's not.
As a libertarian, and I get that. That's your right as an individual to determine for yourself what you choose to do.
Like, I'm not a fan of homosexuality, but look, I've met some cool cats who are gay. I don't want them dead. I don't want them to hurt because they're gay. I don't agree with their lifestyle, but I love them just the same.
That's understandable. And, guys like Antifa, the people in Antifa would try to go out there and convince the public that you want everyone dead that you disagree with. Well, it's in many ways it's such a self-projection. Yeah. Like I said, they need people to gravitate towards Nazism and fascism, which is why they're trying to push people in those directions. I mean, Spencer Sunshine for years has tried to push me into the direction of becoming an anti-Semite, and I just won't take bait.
Yeah.
But he's hoping that I'll do that because he needs a person like me to go that direction so he can scream, "Hey, look, we have anti-Semites. Give us money. We need to fight these anti-Semites."
Yeah, I mean, you can't push that anti-Semitic nonsense on me because not to sound cliche, but my best friend is Jewish. I have a rabbi that comes on this show regularly who honestly was the person that inspired me to start looking more into my spirituality.
Right. He wasn't even telling you necessarily to be Jewish.
No.
He was just telling you to get into spirituality.
Well, no, he wasn't even telling me that. It's just me talking to him. It inspired me to like, okay, let me take this more seriously. Let me at least see if this is right for me, if this is the life I want to pursue.
Right.
So it's like, in fact, I'll name him right now. Rabbi Daniel Sayani, who I've had on this show. I mean, I told this to him. He's what inspired me to start taking Bible studies again. And honestly, right. I'm not ashamed to say that. I am not ashamed to say that Louis B is taking Bible studies.
Well, it's good to understand things in all different variety of directions. I mean, even that stuff too.
And honestly, that
myself, but I don't put people down who do.
I mean, and honestly, it's open
to all that.
I mean, honestly, if you really study the Book of Revelations, it's really opens my eyes when it comes to the New World Order, when it comes to the United Nations.
Well, clearly they're creating a dark system that's very, I would argue, demonic and, evil. And these are words I don't use lightly. Mm-hmm. But certainly their actions are negative energy to hurt people.
Yeah.
They're not doing positive things to help people. So, yeah, I think there might be something to all what you're saying. And certainly on a study level to understand it better, I'm open to that.
I should get you that book, that the religion that I subscribe to, it puts out. It explains Revelations. It would be an interesting read.
I'm sure. I mean, like I said, the Antifa people, they want to they want people to gravitate in the very directions that they say they hate. Because they need an enemy to fight. Without an enemy to fight, they have no purpose to exist.
But here's the stupid thing about them. They have no purpose
to make money. They have no purpose to be a charlatan.
Yeah, I mean, look, and here's the stupid thing about them, because Alex Jones, when he spoke about this, he made a good point. The devil does not give you power. The devil does not give you power. It's not in his best interest to give you strength to fight.
Why would he give you strength when he's the one in charge?
Yeah.
He gives you enough strength to convince you that you have strength, when in reality, he could squash you like a bug in a second.
I mean, God,
much strength as he gives you.
I mean, God, like, look, honestly, I find myself praying to God a lot more, asking him, please protect me, please give me strength. Give me the strength to fight back. Give me the strength to keep the devil away from me. Give me the strength to do what is right. Give me the strength. And he gives me strength. And you show faith. Look, even I know, I gotta start making more changes in my life in order to gain more understanding, more, like not more power, not even more riches, just more peace in my life.
Well, that's the case, and it's been a good thing, positive thing for you. And it sounds that way. And regardless of people, whether they want to, go with the whole Bible angle of this or not, one thing is for certain. Antifa, without a doubt, is a dark entity upon anybody it targets and involve wicked, evil, demonic things to hurt people. And they're not there to help people. They're not there to be positive. That's not me just saying that. Anybody with eyes in their head and a brain in their skull can look at what they do to other human beings, and I'm sure their conclusions are going to come pretty close to what I'm saying. because nobody that wants to help you is going to run around hurting elderly people.
No.
That is absolutely out of control. And that's what these people are dark entity. And not all of them even realize what they're doing, but there's certainly a dark entity that has influenced them to become these characters that hurt people, that aren't helping people. So, like I said, whether Bible angle or not, there's definitely some dark negative energy at foot here with this thing called anti-fascist action. There's no question about that. And we need to try to help people and be positive towards people and show them positive alternatives that will help better their lives, unlike what Antifa does, which is not seeking to better anyone's life. Not even themselves. They don't even realize it's just, they're so wound up in their hatred and anger. It's almost like the Emperor from Star Wars is telling you to let your anger swell up. Just manipulating Darth Vader and confusing him further. It's the same thing, if you really think about it.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's a false sense of power.
Yes, and that's what the dark side of the Force is in Star Wars. It's a false sense of power. The Emperor wants. I mean, look what he's done to all his minions that served him. He had them killed because they failed him.
Well, and also
he told Luke Skywalker to kill his own father because Darth Vader lost the battle. He didn't back his boy up. He's like, oh, well, Darth fell, kill him. I don't care. You can be my new apprentice now. I don't care about your father.
Well, I mean, look at history. Stalin killed all the people close to him. Hitler killed all the people close to him. What do you think would happen if these people ever had a chance to get in power? All these dumb little pawns that did their bidding, they're going to be the first to get killed.
You know why they're going to be the first to get killed? Because they have no actual skills in anything they think about it. Are these laborers? Are these people that build anything? Do they have actually any kind of viable skill in building a society?
No,
they don't. Their only skill that they have is agitation. That's the only thing they have at the table, to be agitators. Beyond agitation, they provide nothing else. They're the kind of people who they'll either be made slaves of and worked to death, or they'll just be eliminated because they're seen as a nuisance. Hitler did this to a problematic group of people called the SA. The SA was originally a group of people he worked with to establish power in Germany, but they were eventually replaced by the SS. Yeah, the brown shirt stormtroopers were replaced by the black uniformed SS, who was a bit more sophisticated and had a better PR life span than, say, the SA, who were basically a bunch of thugs in the street, beating people up. Now, when Hitler took power, he had a problem. The SA was still around, and so was Ernst Röhm, the leader of the SA. They had to be eliminated, and so did the Strausser brothers. Well, I believe it was Gregor Strausser. Yeah, I believe he was the one who was also exterminated. It was called the Night of the Long Knife. Hitler purged the left-wing revolutionary elements of the Nazi Party in the Night of the Long Knife and had them all executed.
Quick question.
Hunted down and killed.
This is something I want to cover real quick. When you say left-wing, right-wing, is that the same left-wing, right-wing, like in American politics that we speak of?
No, I'm talking about the umbrella term of National Socialism. National Socialism had different factions within the party. One can be deemed more right-wing and another can be deemed left-wing. Same thing with communism. Some would argue that Stalin was the right-wing communist and, you know, I believe Lenin and Trotsky were more of the left-wing communists.
So, cool question. So
yeah, I'm referring to within the terms of umbrella term of the label.
So basically, let's say, because they like to compare Nazis and Hitler with like being Republican right wing.
That's not even remotely. So that's funny. I mean, if you look at the policies that both groups of people wanted, they're not really compatible. At the end of the day, I mean, what Republicans are conservatives in the American sense. If they champion limited government and the principles of that, then they're really championing classical liberal values, the things that Jefferson and founders of the country, promoted. So, if they're talking about limiting government, that's absolutely the opposite of what Hitler wanted to do, was a centralized government. I wouldn't even, they don't even remotely, they don't even match each other. They would be at serious odds, just economically. They're capitalists.
So basically, they're being intellectually dishonest by saying, "Oh, they're right wing. These are right wing teachings," trying to juxtapose that to what we would consider right wing.
National socialism was a revolutionary ideology, not a traditionalist or conservative ideology. I mean, from my understanding, it was also very much pro-atheist. It wasn't really, they kind of worked with Catholics, but they would have exterminated the Catholics too, as alongside the Jews after the Jews were gone. They would have definitely gotten rid of the Catholics too. They would have gotten rid of Christians in general, because Christians are a problem. They're not loyal to the state. Nazis are supposed to be obedient and loyal to the Fuhrer and the state. Christianity and religion in general is loyal to a higher power. That is a major conflict of interest if your Fuhrer is supposed to be God, not Christ. See, there's a big problem with that. And like I said, it's a revolutionary ideology. Yeah, they mix in some mythos about the Aryan man, but they're trying to create a new society. Just very much the way fascism is a futuristic ideology that believes in revolutionary change. These are not people seeking to keep the traditional order. They want to create a new society. New implying revolution. So, and it's also, if you really look at the spectrum, it's a left-wing ideology. But once you go beyond it just being a left-wing ideology, it has a left and right component to it. Just like libertarianism, you have left-wing libertarians and right-wing libertarians. They're just different types of libertarians, different, views on social issues. But they're all libertarians. Now, when it comes to the Nazis, they hail from the left wing of the spectrum because, you have to go back to where left and right originate from. They originate in France. And during, I believe, the time of the French Revolution, where the people on the right were the conservatives that sought out to conserve the monarchy. And the people on the left they were in favor of, creating a nation state, which was revolutionary at its time. Or they were liberal or socialist or communist or, anarchist types. Those are left-wing ideologies in the context of what used to be traditional conservative and, right-leaning. The Tories in England were considered the conservatives of the American Revolution, whereas the founders would have been considered liberal and, left-leaning.
Right.
So when I speak of left and right, you almost have to really go back to where the original meanings of those terms come from and how they were founded. And then you have to apply them in a manner that reflects each separate nation as well as label or political movement. Because it's left wing and right wing mean different things in different circumstances.
Right.
Our right wing here in America, which is, based on the tradition of classical liberalism, is not going to be the same as, say, in Israel or even elements of Europe.
Right.
Which might favor more different things. Whereas, left wing is going to be pretty much anything more towards the revolutionary side. Of
so why
the major system is.
So why doesn't Antifa really explain or try to not separate, but like they don't explain that, okay, when they're talking about right wing, they're talking about the right wing as in the sense of the whole communist fascist spectrum.
We're talking about totalitarian. They're basically the umbrella of totalitarianism.
Yeah.
If you really think about it, they're referring to that. Where under the, I guess the umbrella of like authoritarianism / totalitarianism, communism would be like more, it would be the left angle of that. Whereas National Socialism would be the right label of that. And fascism is kind of in the middle of a third position. Although they tend to just say it's right wing, despite the fact that it probably shares more left-wing components than it does right. Yeah, fascism is a third positionist ideology, which is really neither left nor right. It's a hybrid between the two in certain elements. And that has to do with the fact that Mussolini himself was, if you look at his background, he was a communist. He was a socialist. He was an anti-war person at one point, and he was raised by his parents who were left-wing socialists, and I believe they even had some anarcho elements in them as well. But he was raised by all those things, and he kind of meshed fascism after he left the Communist Party as kind of like a critique of what he saw in communism. He believed that socialism was dead at that time, and thought about creating something revolutionary and new, which would share elements of socialism, because his ideology economically was anti-communist as well as anti-capitalist, and didn't agree with socialism. But he tried to craft something. I guess fascism to some degree is like an incomplete ideology, in a sense, because it is a compilation of various ideas from both the left and right. And you know, it's very futuristic. They wanted to create this big grandiose like society. It's a totalitarian ideology. That's Mussolini coined it as a totalitarian ideology, where the state dominates everything, and you have obedience to the state. But yeah, you have to really sit down and look at the different angles of it. You read the Italian fascist program, which I haven't done in some time. I did that a while ago to understand what it is. I have to really brush up on it. But from what I understand, it's not like really a traditionalist ideology. It's more of a futurist ideology. And he only dealt with the Catholic Church because, you know, they were in Rome and he kind of had no choice. Mussolini, that is. He had to keep them in place because they were a powerful entity at the time. And I'm sure if fascism were to exist today and Mussolini were alive today, he probably wouldn't have to deal with the Catholic Church because I don't know if they're as strong as they are today as they were back then. He probably would have eliminated them, I would imagine, if they didn't have the strength that they had then. I think you would probably agree with me on that. But that just goes to show you, yeah, I mean, so, yeah, Antifa is referring to right-wing in the sense that they view anything on the right as fascist because of, they believe traditionalism, the family, you know, religion, anything that is alternative to what they want is fascism because they believe more in what communism is. I mean, they even admit in the handbook that they're friendly with communists and they're good with communists. And so, I mean, yeah, they American right-wing people are not the fascist or Nazis of Europe by any means. They're more like, they're liberals to some degree. And they want to, you know, maintain and conserve liberal values of the founding fathers. Or at least that's the position they claim to hold. So when Antifa says they're attacking right-wingers or Nazis, that's the other thing. People have to start understanding their interpretations of definitions. Right. They're alternate to ours. And the problem is, most people don't know their definitions are not the same as theirs. When they talk about Nazis, they're talking about fascists, they talk about white supremacy, they're talking about America being those things. And they imply that, yeah, the founding fathers were those things too. and their writings are the same. And individualism is that. That has nothing to do with any of those labels, in any historical accuracy of what those labels actually represent. So, yeah, it's like they don't want to talk about the nuances of left and right mean, because that doesn't serve their interests to do so. It doesn't serve their interests to be accurate. What serves their interests is confusion and accusation, and to accuse their enemies of whatever it is they need to, so that their loyal, obedient followers do their deed and eliminate their enemy. Not think twice about it. So yeah, it's very nuanced.
So basically,
it's not possible to learn.
Yeah. No, it's really not difficult to learn. The reason why I asked you that question is because from reading this book, it was one of in the many discussions we've had since I picked up this book, I was like, I asked you straight up, like, wait a minute, when they're talking about left wing, right wing, they're not really, they don't mean the American definition of that. I'm like, I was able to pick that up myself. And you confirmed it. I was like, wait, because it just doesn't seem right, because, because what I know about the Nazi ideology, it is not right-leaning in the least.
Socially and politically and economically, they definitely don't follow American right-wing, direction by any means.
Right.
Very left-wing in a lot of ways. The only thing that makes them right-wing is that they're the right wing of umbrella term that another group is the left wing of. And it's no different than the Bloods and Crips, which neither you or I are a member of. We'd be considered a third position of that, of not being part of either. Not all third positionism is a fascism or a fascist position to have. It's just that when you have two false options, you choose a third position. And I think that's where we stand, not in the fascist context, but in an American context. And that's the other thing Antifa has been deceiving the public with. Since we're going to talk about definitions.
Right.
They know that the public doesn't know what anti-fascist action is, the AFA, Antifa, which that's actually what it stands for. So they call themselves anti-fascist. Most people in America, not knowing their version of the definitions, are going to say, yeah, I'm an anti-fascist, just like you. They're not the same thing. They're not American anti-fascists.
Well, yeah.
They're Marxist anti-fascists. In America, most people, I would think it's safe to say most people are opposed to fascism and Nazism, but I would also think that they're also opposed to Marxism and totalitarian communism, because in our system we don't agree, or we don't support left-wing or right-wing totalitarian positions. We believe in liberal values of the classical sense. We believe in individual liberty and limited government and, small-scale government. Neither of those two ideologies are supportive of that concept or even compatible in any real sense. So therefore, we would be opposed to both left and right efforts to create totalitarian results. Whereas Antifa, they're only opposed to right-wing totalitarianism, but embrace left-wing totalitarianism without any criticism of it. So that's where we American anti-fascists differ from Antifa Marxist anti-fascists. And they don't explain these definitions to people because I don't think they themselves even understand it. But, some of them. But that's the thing. I think it's important that we start examining that. We should always question, when they use words, what the definition of those words to them are. Because they'll go on TV and say, we're fighting white supremacists, we're fighting Nazis, we're fighting fascists, we're fighting racists, we're doing A, B, and C, and we're anti-fascists. But the thing is, people aren't going to ask them what their definition is, because they just assume their definitions are the same as the majority of the public's. But the public doesn't know that their definitions are not the same as the public's, that they're entirely different. And that's something that really we have to focus more efforts on exposing, because they have a deceptive way of words that they're using they're pulling over the eyes of the public to deceive them. And the public is unaware of this. And this is why they get away with what they get away with. This is why they're supported the way they are. Because the public does not understand their definitions. And they can get away with their deceptive definitions. Because they don't know them. And they're deceptive terms, rather. And we need to educate the public on what their deceptive terms actually mean. And once the public realizes, they're talking about the Bill of Rights being white supremacist, they eventually will lose the support of the people. They don't really have the support of the people now, but they have an easier time deceiving the people to gain support when they say things that the people generally agree with, but don't understand that they're not the same definitions that they would agree with. And if they knew those definitions, the public wouldn't agree with them. They would look at them as if they're absolutely insane. And rightfully so, I might add. See, I had to learn this through interaction with these people in person. And in some cases, in dangerous ways. But I did learn this stuff. I also read this stuff in their writing. And I'm sure that book is also kind of revealing that to what I'm saying to be accurate.
Yes, it is.
Because I'm sure they have definitions in that book that are highly, at odds of what the public thinks. I'm sure you've already seen, just from what you've read, that that's the case. It's not me just saying that. It's actually really the case. So, I mean, we need to certainly focus on educating the public on what their interpretations of the definitions are, so that they're aware that their definitions don't match up with our definitions. There's no doubt that needs to be done.
Surprise, there's no glossary section in this book.
No glossary section?
Nope.
There wouldn't be. Because, like I said, they'll tell you the meaning of words, but you're going to have to really dig to understand what they are. Or you're going to have to talk to them in person and find out what their definitions are. Yeah. Assuming you're at a safe distance. They don't attack you violently.
So anyways,
you run the risk of being attacked.
Yeah. So far we've been going on for 2 hours. Let's save some for next week.
Yeah, that's fine.
So,
I think we covered a lot.
Yeah, we did.
There's much more to cover, I'm sure. I mean, this is not over. There's so much more to deal with.
No. I mean, this is why I'm writing a book. I am taking their writings. I'm reverse engineering shit. And, I mean, look, it just comes down to it. Simple, basically everything Antifa isn't. Antifa is fascist. They are the fascists. They act like fascists. Don't be fascist. They are anti-Semitic. They are really anti-Semitic. Don't be anti-Semitic.
They're a movement of self-projection. Mm-hmm. Everything they accuse others of doing, they themselves actually engage in, for the most part. And that's the main thing that really needs to be understood about them. They're a movement of trappings, no different than neo-Nazis. And people have to realize they're not just a bunch of kids in a basement at home living with mommy and daddy. Those kids maybe, but the apparatus and the network is vast, and these are people who are pure opportunistic snakes that are doing this for money. They're pure mercenaries, and they're manipulating people to enact the violence that they themselves don't have the guts to do to others. And that needs to be understood. They're sponsored by powerful people. Mm-hmm. And this is why they're a problem for everybody. And let me tell you, they're not just going to go after conservatives or the Proud Boys or right-leaning people. In due time, let's just say they successfully eliminate those groups, they'll come after the liberals, because liberals, the book makes it clear, liberals are a problem to Antifa. They consider them Nazi sympathizers and consider them too weak to the level, because they're willing to have dialogue with people that Antifa doesn't agree with. Right. So therefore, they almost equate liberals to be collaborators with Nazis. So that's an extreme position to hold, but that's the one that they hold, and they will come after moderate leftists in due time. And they're already seeing evidence of this occur now. And that point needs to be emphasized even more, that just because they're attacking people on the right, don't think they're not going to come for you. It's only a matter of time until they run out of people to attack on what they call the far right before they start coming for you and looking for your purity. And if you don't have purity enough for them, they will target you, and they will try their best to ruin your life. So you better be well prepared to handle that when that time comes. You're better off making alliances with people who know how to deal with it now and learning how to combat this problem rather than being by yourself and not knowing how to do it. Anyway, I didn't mean to rant and rave there, but I wanted to emphasize that point.
All right.
I appreciate you allowing me to do that, Louis.
Yep, no problem. Anyways, let me let you go, Gabe. Thanks for being on. All right. So, anyways, yeah, that was Gabe Brown. A lot of great information, a great conversation. Come back next week. We'll have some more for you. Yeah, man. As always, from my house to your house, mahalo.
And that's the end of my show, donk.
Help the Crowd Shout Radio Show grow and thrive by doing something you already do. Shop on Amazon. Amazon always has great deals for whatever you are looking for. From survivalists and riot gear to beanie babies. Next time you're going to shop at Amazon, use my link. The prices stay the same, but I get credit for the sale. Just go to tinyurl.com/LouisB and just shop normally, knowing that you're helping support the Crowd Shout Radio Show. That's tinyurl.com/LouisB.